Okay, hey guys, I just wanted to go over really quick pretty much what you're going to expect to see on the MCAT for the psych and social. So I'll just cover this really quickly. Hope you can enjoy my little highlighter here that's shaped like a pen or shaped like a injection. So, anyway, so let's talk about sociology really quick. So we have functionalism, conflict theory, symbolic interactionism, and social construction, which are the four theories of sociology. Those are going to be the four main subjects that you want to focus on and understand the definition and be able to relate them to the founders of that. The three main founders that you want to focus on are Durkheim, Marx, and Weber for sociology and for these theories. And then it's also really important to understand the fact that these are macro and micro views of sociology. So I'll go right into it. We'll start with functionalism. The best way to think of functionalism is the word functionalism. So specifically that it's complex, right? And as a society, a society will work together, even though it's complex, to obtain social stability. And as they work together, the goal is to reach some sort of social equilibrium. And this theory was proposed by Durkheim. And then you have to know that, since you're thinking of this is a complex society, you want to think this is on a macro level. And so this is the way I shortened it. And then under those two things, you want to focus on the fact that there's two manifest and latent results or consequences. So intended consequences and latent consequences of these theory of functionalism. So for example, if you have a school and your child goes to school, the manifest of it would be the fact that you want your child to go to school to learn. However, if you're talking about the latent function, right, an unintended consequence of somebody going to school is there might be like an active shooter or something terrible like that. So I'm giving you that extreme example so that you can be able to differentiate between manifest, which is what you intended for your child to do, is go to school and learn, and then unintended is like if they got bullied or something horrible happened. So that's going to be associated with functionalism, with Durkheim, and this is on the macro level. When it comes to conflict theory, this too is on a macro level, and conflict theory pretty much purports that there are limited resources via social, political, and material resources that are limited. And so it's this whole like conflict theory, and the way you want to think about this is about class struggle, that the rich have the most and then the poor have the least. And so I'm oversimplifying it, but at the end of the day, effectively you want to think about limited resources associated with conflict theory. And Marx and Weber are two fathers of sociology, as well as Durkheim, who believed in conflict theory on a macro level. However, Marx thought about class struggle, and whereas Weber thought about the talked about an overlap, specifically with capitalism, and expressing that capitalism isn't going to go away, it's here to stay. And his focus was more so on capitalism, that it's here to stay, and the overlap there, whereas Marx was more focused on like the rich are getting richer, and the power struggle that exists. And the only thing that people talk about with conflict theory is the fact that that money and limited resources is the sole issue, whereas like functionalism talks about like how everyone is contributing, so it's like much more limited in thought. So if we jump down to the third, this one's a little bit tougher for me, and the best way I like to think about these two is between these last two theories of sociology, the symbolic interactionism and the social construct. They are both micro views, right? So one-on-one level. And so if you think about symbolic and social, they both start with S, and S is small, and so you can think of small as micro, and that's how I'm going to remember it, and that's how I remember it. But if we get back into the definition with symbolic interactionism, it is basically just think about how humans interpret their day-to-day interaction. And so it's what humans actually, what we believe to be true, right? Maybe you treat somebody a certain way because of what you believe to be true about them, right? And so in those three categories, we ascribe meaning to things, right? And we use a language to communicate those meanings and thoughts associated with that language. So, and then you have something called the looking glass self, how we see others through ourselves. And so this whole one is kind of a little bit more tough to understand, but it's going to be one that we have to be able to identify on the MCAT. And so I will go back over this one in another video, but for this micro social construct, this one, the definition is truly in its name. So I wrote here how society is made, and how it's made is reaffirmed, right? And how it's reaffirmed and how it's passed on to like future generations. So basically, social construct is how society is made or constructed. And these are concepts that we create. Now, it might be weird to say that marriage is made up, right? But really, truly, marriage and gender and games, all of these are, things that have been made up, essentially, right? And that's kind of hard to wrap your head around because of the fact that nobody, really, if you think about what was there before marriage, these are, created concepts and ways that we understand the world and how it's created to have a, understanding of where we are today. So these are all concepts, right? Gender is easily confused with sex, whereas gender talks about how a man is viewed and his behaviors, thinking about masculinity or femininity or his level of that, and then talk about femininity. So that's different from sex, which has a biological view, right? A biological view. So a woman or a man, and just going right back, straight to their reproductive system. So that's different. So gender is different from sex there, and gender is a concept. So I hope this was helpful, and I'm happy to make another video going deeper into these 4 concepts. But these 4 concepts is something that you have to be pretty familiar with and be able to identify on the upcoming MCAT. And I'm happy to do another video to go deeper in each of these concepts, but this is pretty much what you need to know.